the tribe, indigenous, at the end of the day, it is the ground reality, the lived experience that we have, should find a space in the knowledge building process, which actually many times is not there. So let me begin to talk about this book through a small write-up that I have done, since it is a complex type of a theorization that is emerging, trying to cover the various lived realities of the tribes inhabiting Northeast context. And as a principle, the book makes an effort of putting diversity, heterogeneity as the first principle. Today is a historic moment of a small beginning towards an academic attempt to understand our lived experiences. This book, Identities and the Struggles in Northeast, Tribal and Adivasi Studies, Volume 2, is a marker of this event. It is an outcome of a long effort made by the collective who is concerned about making knowledge responsible for better society. We acknowledge this collective endeavor, and as a matter of a special consideration, let me take the liberty of placing my heartfelt gratitude to Adivaani, Ruby Hemram and her team, our publishers, for their commitment and professional work. The Adivasi is a publication house of the Adivasis and tribals. It upholds their cultural and historical heritage with great pride and attempts to create a space for articulation of their knowledge in public domain. Our book would not have been possible without Adivasi. Thank you very much. Besides, I would like to acknowledge the hard work of our collective, and in particular those who have contributed to this volume. Every one of you has a unique location and a theoretical orientation that keeps the narrative alive. You represent lived existences of diverse tribal societies running across 8 states of the Northeast. Your effort would go a long way in situating identities and struggles with a perspective from within. As the volume is read, it is hoped that the lived and the struggles become accessible in the domain of knowledge, enabling an inclusive and egalitarian space, which I think has been emphasized by Professor Kaka. The framework of the volume is built on the recognition of a contemporaneity of identities and their struggles. It reads as the immediacy of social experience in the life of tribes, conceived as fundamental to their existence, is the foundation of all knowledge that concerns them. Articulating from varied social locations, this book attempts to conceive and constitute mutually shared and egalitarian space of dialogue towards knowledge production derived from the lived experience of diverse communities inhabiting Northeast region of India. Taking their struggles and experiences as both source of knowledge and as unit of analysis, each of the chapters in the book attempts to articulate specific organic conditions that is then transmitted into dialogical spaces that transects with other realities. This kind of methodological conception within tribal studies is generally acknowledged here as an epistemological framework that gives rise to experiential theory. This volume makes a concise deliberation on the dynamic lived reality of the tribes in the Northeast over 4 key themes elaborated in 4 sections, that is, deassembling dominant epistemological premises, revisiting politico-historical debates, defamiliarizing land, culture and identity, and reassembling identity struggles. Each of these themes are discussed drawing from the reflexive illustrations of the first-person experience. The academic endeavor of keeping the narrative alive is a single concern of this volume. 4 theoretical propositions of the volume. Point 1. While there is a growing understanding about anthropological people in Northeast, not much is known about their struggles and experience for existence from their lived experiences. This lack has created a reality of an epistemological margin, often leading to a denial of academic space for nationalities, tribes, and Adivasis. They are subject to layers of colonial and post-colonial nation-state epistemologies, which view them as peoples needing modernity and change in contemporary history. The first section of the volume argues that any academic engagement to understand these social realities cannot but proceed from de-assembling the existing dominant epistemological premises for a positive recognition of identities and the struggles in academic domain as people who can evolve and change in their own capacity in time and place. Procedurally, going beyond the bounds of disciplines of social science, their struggle should define philosophy of tribal and Adivasi studies, so as to locate the embedded categories and concepts of cosmological societies and a theorization from within. Point 2. While there is a growing linear understanding of relationship between state and tribe in the region, lived struggles indicate the complex nature of the relationship between them. This lack underscores the importance of a revisit of a politico-historical debates. The second section of the volume engages with varied discourses such as nation, native, state, stateless, localization, globalization, tribe protection, land indigeneity, and democracy citizenship, with illustrious examples from experiences. The volume outlines a nuanced understanding of an idea and practice of a state by questioning philosophy and intentionality of the state processes. It argues that complex geopolitical, historical nature of the region shapes the idea and practice of the emerging state. While the discourse on the state versus native is very prominent in major parts, statelessness and human rights are concerned confronting the region. Stateless people could be described as people under domination by the state or human condition where people are struggling to get their democratic and citizenship rights. While there is an intense discourse on democracy, governance, and development, the debate on indigeneity is still alive. However, the volume concludes that nation-state concept or framework as one nation, one people, may become a matter of power and domination in the region. While there is a trend observed as moving towards a mutual interface between state and cultural identities, in more a dynamic ways than linear, the idea of state is being negotiated where many times the political supersedes development and governance, suggesting an idea of multiple nations within a nation. Point 3. While there are constitutional and legal safeguards, issues of land and identity in tribal areas of the Northeast continue to persist. This lack or issue necessitates the importance of defamiliarizing land, culture, and identity to understand why there is still resistance, conflicts, and even violence. The third section of the volume argues that assertion for constitutional protection of land, identity, and culture exposes the post-colonial nation-state doings and its categories. The concern is about linear categorical imposition on the cosmological societies in the experience and the worldview of the tribes. Land, culture, territory, and economy are intricately linked. This holistic understanding becomes their epistemological standpoint from where they conceive the collective self and the world. Taking the illustration further, the volume locates the issue of conflicts in tribal area as land and identity based. Land provides the basic foundation of existence and livelihood. This situation of violence gets expressed when this equilibrium is disturbed. The volume argues that the ontological categories of the state needs to be defamiliarized in order to unravel this basic contradiction. The 4th point, last one. Although the Constitution provides for scheduling, development, and promotion, poverty, social security, and protection are still issues confronting tribes. The last section of the volume gives a nuanced understanding of how the present post-colonial context gives rise to a dynamic identity processes and the need for reassembling identity struggles to create empowering space with a perspective from within. At the heart of every identity struggle, there is an issue of existence, agency, and a narrative of belonging. Identity construction goes beyond strategic essentialism as it raises a critical question about democracy, ethics of power, and ownership of resources, which is connected with their existence itself. However, the ground reality is very much shaped and influenced by overarching structures across varied sites covering trans-border concrete issues of work and livelihood, and recognition, protection, and affirmative action within the state context. The struggle is for existence and contemporaneity, a space for organic self-governance and development. It constitutes the very heart of their existence and ethics of social life. Finally, a theoretical conclusion. The underlying theory of the volume underscores a lived struggle for survival. It is an argument for positive recognition of a space of living for all societies, societies as identities having agency in a realm of mutual coexistence. Any attempt to assimilate will incur power domination. This volume as a whole argues for a natural social space of cultural diversity and plurality as an overarching generative structure that shapes identities and agency. The identities are agency as agencies become the link between structure and subject as it unfolds out in daily lived experiences within the cosmological setup where sharing, listening and dialogue merged into the realm of sociability and mutual relationship. This viewpoint in tribal and Adivasi studies is conceived as a perspective from within. Thank you so much.